Glitter. So this is a Mariah Carey vehicle, and that's pretty much all you need to know. It's entirely, mostly, the entire soundtrack is Mariah Carey original songs. She acts in it as the primary character. I mean, I don't know why she didn't just use her own name as the character. They use a pseudonym, which is clearly based on her. Mariah Carey is not an actor. That was probably the first really unfortunate choice for this. She could have, if she was going to use a pseudonym for the character, she could have picked an actress to do this. Because it doesn't work. That's probably the biggest thing I can think of. The writing isn't good, and there's things that happen that don't make sense particularly well. Apparently, this was one of those movies that sat in development hell for a while. Mariah Carey tried to pitch it a number of times, like in 1997 was when originally she had the idea, and it didn't get made till, I don't know, 2000 or 2001. But she wrote a bunch of songs for it, and I don't know why she chose to act in it, but she doesn't do it any favors. It's not like she doesn't express enough. She's just clearly not an actor, and that's the problem with it. She's got this sort of vacant smile that she keeps on her face the whole time, which just doesn't really tell you anything, because it doesn't seem like a genuine happy smile or anything. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It does not work with her as the lead. I don't think that it would have worked with anybody as the lead, particularly the first 5 or 6 minutes of the movie. As the credits slowly roll, it flashes forward and back. It doesn't flash backwards because it doesn't start from the current, but it sort of zooms through childhood scenes, vignettes of this Mariah Carey character, like relationship with her mother and being, adopted. But it's almost to the point where it didn't need to be there, because it's only like really brief flashes of stuff. And while it does show us like her first time on stage, I guess, and like the actress that is her mother, so that we know who that is later, it does introduce her friends when she's a child. But I mean, they really could have just started after that in the present time and not had to worry about that, or shown it in flashbacks later. It just felt really weird to start the movie like that. It felt disjointed, and the editing was a little weird there. It felt unfocused. The characters are not written in such a way that they're consistent, I guess. The other primary character in this is her sort of long-term boyfriend producer, who kind of turns on a dime from being, likable guy to complete douchebag, back to likable guy and stuff. And yeah, he's just not, he doesn't make much sense. Like, he's played as, incredibly jealous and incredibly protective at some points, and then fully reasonable and, a fine person in other parts, but it just doesn't make much sense. It's just this, it's like two different characters are thrown together. Her friend characters, which are in the whole movie, are never really fleshed out or given personalities. They're just sort of there to, make the occasional joke, which is kind of unfortunate. They could have had a little more personality going on. The only other character that is of note, I mean, there's a few, like, record producers and businessmen sort of people in there, but they're not important. I couldn't even tell you any of their names, and I just watched the movie. The one person who is sort of the only other character who's particularly important is Terrence Howard is in this movie, who you might know as the original War Machine from the first Iron Man movie. And he is awesome. He plays this sleazy record producer who's the first person to really hire the Mariah Carey character as a backup singer, and then uses her voice to cover up the fact that the lead can't actually sing. He and the eventual boyfriend producer strike this deal where the boyfriend guy will pay him $100,000 for him to break the contract with her, which doesn't make sense. Why would he just sort of do that? He never collects any money from him. He just sort of stands around really menacingly. And there's like 3 or 4 scenes before you actually, like, they mention it in a conversation early on, like, $100,000, and I'll let you have whatever. But the thing is, he's played off, like, the boyfriend character is shown to be super rich and has this massive loft in New York, so you assume he's got money and that he just paid the money. It's never implied at any point that he didn't, so it's really confusing later on when this Terrence Howard character is still lurking around really menacingly, like he's just being, scary or something. I couldn't figure it out. And then it came up that, oh, he never actually paid him. Why not? He's got to have money. Like, at least paying him in installments or something. And it's not till the very end of the movie that the Terrence Howard character shows up, talks to Mariah Carey, and threatens her. And it's just way over the top. He's always wearing a hat, too, that makes him look even, like, skeevier. And then, apparently the reaction there is that the boyfriend, who has some name, like a DJ name that I don't remember, that was just, I don't know, whatever, he goes and beats the crap out of him, which is told off screen in a news report. And you don't see the Terrence Howard ever, like, injured. The next time you see him, he looks perfectly fine. Like, and nothing happened. And apparently he was beaten to the point where he had to be taken to the hospital in, I assume, like, critical condition or something. But yeah, the next time you see him, he just sort of shows back up after, you know, this altercation leads to the Mariah Carey character and the boyfriend character breaking up. And then that's done until, you know, he decides to apologize after he, as mentioned, he's kind of a massive dick through most, at least the latter half of the movie. And then he gets shot, and dies. And that's more or less the end of the movie. But Mariah Carey does find her mother. She was abandoned in an orphanage for most of the movie, and then eventually figures out, hey, I bet they have information on my mom, and doesn't think to do that until she's like 20-odd something. Yeah, but she ultimately does find her after he dies, and it's so weird, because in retrospect, they're trying to play it as this grand romance, but he's played as such a dick through most of the movie. It's just that sort of inconsistency that doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, it's just, I think this movie maybe has a worse rap than it deserves. I mean, I think the music in it mostly sucks. I don't know, I'm not a music guy, but it sounds, everything is they try to make it as 80s as possible. It seems like they're trying to play it off as a joke. Like, everything is so over the top 80s. And, like, some of the clothes clearly are, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know. It didn't come off as actually funny. Obviously, Mariah Carey acting was a misstep, I think. Yeah, none of the acting's really good. Terrence Howard is probably the only person who really understands that he's not in a good movie. So he seems to have fun with his role, which actually isn't in the movie very much. But yeah, the plot's not particularly interesting. It feels a little self-indulgent, I guess. But it's okay. Overall, it's not nearly as incompetent as you might expect. It's still super incompetent, and there's a lot of continuity errors here and there, and like you would expect from, you know, a more or less rookie pursuit. But yeah, it is mostly, it's a mixture of sort of writing issues, mostly writing of characters. Like, the dialogue isn't good, but it doesn't really stand out as super bad for most of it. It's really the characters aren't consistent. And the pacing's kind of weird. There's some really short scenes. As I mentioned at the beginning, it sort of flashes through a bunch of tiny bits of short scenes. Like, they weren't really sure. I think this got hacked a little bit afterwards to make it into the movie that it is. Like, maybe they shot more than they needed. But, I don't know. It's not great. It's down, like, at the bottom. It's like 20-something on the bottom 100, which is a bit low, I think, for this. I think this obviously wasn't a Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's more recent than that. But I think it did actually have a pretty famous riff tracks.
Would that be the titular glitter?
I forbid you to use the word titular in this context, please.
Quick, put on a shower curtain.
Just sort of the heir apparent to MST3K. It's the last trio of Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and why am I forgetting the other guy? It'll come back to me. It's the last three MST3K guys did riff tracks, and I think this is a particularly famous one that tanked the ratings. Again, it's a Democratic list, so the more people that see it as a bad movie, like in a riff, they're going to vote for it as a bad movie and lots of 1 stars. So I think that tanked it a bit. It's not a good movie, but I would say it's probably like a 3 or 4 star as opposed to a 2. Yeah, it's not good. But, you know, this, compared to the other stuff I've been watching, like The Maze or Starfighters, nah, this is fine. This is just a big budget flop. Kind of like Gigli. Although it's way more watchable than Gigli, and Gigli's nowhere near as high as it. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I got to say about this.
Everybody, my daughter over there. She's gonna be a really big star one day. You guys in for a real treat. Come on, y'all, give her a hand. Come on, give it up. Give it up, yeah. You can do better than that. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah.
In a world where proving yourself is everything.
Hey, Billy, can you repeat that verse?
Okay. They don't matter. They're just backup.
One woman is about to get the chance.
All right, everybody, when the microphone comes, I want you to do something special.
To go from unknown.
You have got a beautiful voice. I want to produce you.
Yeah, right.
To a world she's only dreamed of.
Don't you be getting all freaky on the first date.
It's not a date.
What's up, New York? Remember the name, Billy Frank. Turn it up.
I'm on the radio.
I'm a big fan. Maybe we should get together. They want you to work with other producers.
The label makes these decisions.
Well, you can't let them use the best of you.
What makes you think that's the best of me?
20th Century Fox and Columbia Pictures present. Music brought them together. Fame could tear them apart.
I'm not gonna let you ruin everything that I'm working for.
It is all about you, right? The superstar always comes first.
But love will never let it end.
None of this would have happened if you didn't believe in me.
Mariah Carey. Glitter.
Bounce around, come on. What you want now? What you want now?